like they say, April showers brings May flowers, and I finally got a chance to get out today because it's been raining. And I also want to share with you and tell you how your gun will tell you where it needs to be shot at, even if it is regulated. So in this video, I'm going to be setting this Avenger to the factory setting of 22 caliber. In the manual, it states that the regulator needs to be set at 2600 PSI and 3 turns in on the hammer spring. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to set the regulator to 2600 PSI and air it up just a hair above that, and shoot groups at the regulator pressure and farther down, and the gun will actually tell you what pressure the regulator needs to be set with a certain pellet you're using. And what I'm using here in this video is the JSB FX 1589 grain pellet and the CARM magazine. So I'm going to get set up at 50 yards and find where this gun likes to be shot at and share that with you, because a lot of guns are regulated and don't have a hammer spring adjustment, and a lot of guns have a hammer spring adjustment that are not regulated. So this kind of knocks out 2 birds with 1 stone here. So I'm going to get this aired back up and reset the regulator and get on the bench. I'll see you there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is just tuning at 50 yards. If I switch the ranges closer or farther away, I would have to tune for that distance. So again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you have to tune for whatever distance you're shooting at, and in this video it's just 50 yards. Alright, I'm at the bench at 50 yards, got the regulator set at 2600 PSI, 3 turns in on the hammer spring. The gun is filled up just a hair above 2600 PSI, like at 2700. I'm going to take 4 shots because 3 you're lucky, 4 you're not. So even though they grip good down there, I could watch them swirl to the left. Now, I'm at 2600 PSI, where the regulator is. Let's see what happens. 4 more shots. Last 3 shots there tightened up a little bit. Now I'm a hair below 2600 PSI. Woo, that tightened up big time, below the regulator. I'm at about 2500 PSI on the reg. I'm going to do 4 more shots and see if it opens up, and then we'll call it. And then I'll reset the regulator to 2500 PSI. Wow, literally the last 3 shots in the same hole. 2400 PSI, 3 turns in on the hammer spring. I'm gonna call it that. I'm gonna go reset the reg and try again. So I got the reg reset at 2400 PSI. I'm gonna shoot 4 more shots. Yep, I'll take that all day. Woo! Go get the target. So here's my target, guys, as you can see, starting up here and working my way down. And then I found where the gun liked to be shot at 2400 PSI. Again, all this was at 3 turns in, but I started above the 2600 PSI mark because in the manual of the Air Venturi, that's what the factory setting is for the regulators, 2600 PSI and 3 turns in on the hammer spring from back all the way out counterclockwise. And then the last 4, when I got my scope re-zeroed and dialed in, are right there at that setting. And a dime could easily cover that 4-shot group there. Easy, no questions asked. And then I shot through the chronograph 5 shots to see at the muzzle and downrange at 50 yards, and the average at the muzzle here was 782, and the 5-shot average down at 50 yards was 651, which gives me a ballistic coefficient of 0.033. What this means is a regulated air gun will tell you where it needs to be shot at, even if it is under the regulator. If it shoots better under the regulator, that's the hint right there that that's where it needs to be shot at that set PSI on your gauge, if you have a gauge. Some guns don't. But this also shows if your gun does not have any hammer spring adjustment. Leaving the hammer spring at the same setting during this whole video, you know, a lot of guns have regulators and no hammer spring adjustment. A lot of guns have hammer spring adjustment and no regulators. So that's how it goes. But anyways, I hope you got something from this video, guys. It was definitely interesting, and I noticed this a while ago, and I thought I'd make a video about it. Again, your gun can tell you where it wants to be shot at, or where to set the regulator at. And, you know, if you have a manual and it tells you that that's the factory setting, you can start with that. Find out the exact tune where your pellet likes to be shot at, as you've seen here with the JSB FX 1589 grain at 50 yards in about 50-degree temperatures outside. So I appreciate you watching as always. Hope to catch you on the next one.